Hello, hello, and welcome everyone to this week on Magnet Marketers, where our goal is to help you become a magnet with your marketing versus being a bullhorn. I'm one of your hosts here, Jessica Phillips with Now Marketing Group and the Relationship Marketing System, here to help you create repeat referral business with your ideal audience. And my awesome co-host, Mike Gingrich, President at Digital Hill and co-founder of the popular app Tabsite in Woftio, now adding to the list. He's also founder of a nonprofit called I Give Global, where he lives and breathes by the philosophy of always being uncommon and always adding value. How's it going, Mike?
Hey, doing well, Jessica, and glad to be here back at Magnet Marketers for another week, another round of talk.
Yeah, before we dive into why we're here today, which is how to create a social media communications plan, which is so important before you get going with your social media, I do have to ask, I've seen and followed you, of course, on Facebook, and I seen there was a triathlon.
There was. Saturday was triathlon day, yes.
So tell us about that.
The culmination of some training, and it was in Michigan, southern Michigan. So I had to drive up there early and Saturday morning. And, it's one of those things when I'm standing there on the edge of a lake with, all these people. And I'm looking out at the water. I'm looking out at the buoy that's way out there, like my first turn on the water, and I'm like, oh, okay, what did I get myself into here?
Yeah, like this is like step one of the three things that I'll be doing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it went well. It's a new experience, particularly the swim for sure, just because, you got a mass of people all heading for the same thing. And so you're splashing, you're bumping, you're jostling and until it spreads out far enough, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But that was that's probably the most unique experience. And then, the bike went well, the run went okay, that went fine. So, and you got done, you feel like you accomplished something.
Yeah. I think this could tie into what we're talking about today, because there's many, many different phases and stages of social media and marketing that matter. But, it may seem impossible when you're first looking out there at that first buoy. But once you get the hang of it and you get going and you kind of have that end in sight mentality that you're going to keep going, but you can see kind of you're getting close to this finish line of having this plan in place, you can keep going. And
no, that's great. No, it's right on. And even with the triathlon, like there's little things that you want to think about, just like with your social media plan. Like in a triathlon, the transitions are key. I get out of the water and I got to get up to my bike as fast as I can. I got to dry off enough to get shoes on, helmet on, and go. And you try to do that as fast as you can. I mean, those are the things you might not think about, just like in your social media plan. You don't want to overlook some details here.
Exactly. Transitions are key. So as social platforms change too, being able to be agile and move and transition quickly can break a really successful social media campaign. So, all right, I thought we could just try to tie it in there and really just want to know about how it went, because it looked a lot of fun from an outsider. I don't want to be the person doing it. But okay, so talking about creating a social media policy, whether you're new to social media, maybe you're already doing it, it's never too late to stop, pause, start your transition, if you will, to making sure that you have a solid game plan, is what we like to call it in-house, but communications plan, policy, whatever you want to call it, in place for your social media. But at the end of the day, it's a plan of sorts. And the things that you need to have in place and the things you need to think about in order to successfully do a social media campaign for your business, so it does produce a positive ROI. So I want to dive through quickly some of those things. And if we have questions as we go, we can pause, kind of touch on it, address it, and keep going. Sound good?
Yep.
All right. So the most important thing before you start a social media plan or even launch a profile is really knowing who your audience is, because that's going to let you know what field you're playing in. We call these buyer personas. That is the most important thing that you really need to know before you even dive into social media. What's another thing that you think that people need to know before they even start a social media plan?
Who they're targeting, but I think as kind of related to that is where that audience then spends time.
Yep, exactly. So we like to call this the field.
Yeah. So, if you're wasting time on Pinterest and everybody's over on Instagram, that's wasted effort kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And at the end of this, by the way, we do have something that we use in-house, and we'll combine it with this video so you can go back and reference it, because it may not make sense to all the columns may not make sense unless you watch this video, but it's really called the social media game plan. And that's what we call it. The fields that you're going to be playing on, the recruits or your personas, all of those that you can start planning out yours in a very easy to use, pretty looking guide.
Game plan. I like it.
Yeah. So first know your personas, then know the fields or the platforms that you're going to be on before you get started, kind of where they're hanging out, because you want to spend your time where your audience is hanging out.
Yeah. I'm going to jump in and just say, maybe I jumped ahead too far, because you in that beginning stage, I mean, you don't want to determine what your goal is. I mean, because and break it down. It's too nebulous to say increase sales. Okay.
Yep.
So you got to get more detailed than that.
Yeah. And we call these wins. What are your wins? So if your win is, you want to increase your brand awareness or more people to be more aware of your product, then you may consider a win more likes, more clicks to your website, more conversions on your website, more downloads, and then ultimately more sales. But your first small wins before the big kind of championships of more sales could be the little things, the likes, the clicks to your website, that kind of stuff that's going to be all growing to what's going to be your ultimate big championship win, which is increased sales. So knowing your audience, knowing your wins, what are those wins to you, your goals, and then knowing where you need to be spending your time on the platforms.
Yeah. And if I give our audience a tip here, I want to say that one of the outcomes that I think is overlooked that shouldn't be, when you're trying to break it down, you often say sales too fast, but what gets you to those sales, and that's the typically a business is going to have multiple points of contact with you. So growing an email list, you're getting them into your CRM system from social is a key point there. Don't overlook that as a win. So it's a fan, but if you can get them to your website and gain a name and email address, that's a win. That's something that should be measured. Too many overlook that. So I wanted to highlight that for those tuning in here as a as a quick tip of a win to consider. I
like it. Yes, definitely. So then from there, it's knowing kind of your timeline too. So your timeline, and this is going to be kind of 3 parts. The who is going to be managing. So who are your key players in your plan? Your timeline for when you're going to go live with all of this, and kind of when you're going to stop and measure if what your plan is working or not. You're going to look around and say, hey, is everything that I'm having in place, working or not? What's your time frame that you're going to give yourself? So, and then what is your time frame that you're going to go live? Because you may roll out on one platform first and then say, hey, I'd really like to be doing 5, but I don't have enough players for us to go 5 or resources. I'm going to start on 1, then I'm going to add in another one, and then add in another one. So know when you're going to go live and how you're going to release it. So establish a timeline for kind of the release of your social media, and what you're going to be doing there is the next step.
Yep, I like that. And I think that you said know what your measurement of success or that type of thing. I think people, you can overestimate. There's just kind of this giddy philosophy. Oh, I should just go from success to success. And you need to anticipate sharpening, the need to review and make some changes.
Yep. We try to do this on a monthly basis, but really, really aggressively look at it on a quarterly basis. So monthly, we say, okay, yeah, we're seeing improvement. We're seeing good things happening here. We're kind of shifting a little bit, trying out a few new things. And then a quarterly, we're like, is this working? Did we get our objectives? Yes or no? What do we need to improve, change, stop, whatever, and then go from there. So like you say in your halftime mic, it's adjustments made at halftime that make all the difference, which is so true. So then we talked about knowing the platform. So that's like how you're going to launch your social media. I'm going to put that in the notes here so we can, you can follow along kind of through this list. But then what is your tone of voice going to be on each platform? More importantly, not just your tone of voice, but what is each platform going to be used to do to get to your wins? Okay. So for example, we've mentioned on here.
Some of them could be different. Are you saying they could have different? Oh my word. Break that down.
I love the facetiousness. So Yeah. So your Instagram, for example, I've mentioned on here, we use that for branding and talking about our culture. That's what that's there for. I'm going to use Twitter a lot differently. I'm going to be using Twitter to drive traffic and for us to go be the go-to for one source of information. Our tone of voice, which tone is used how we're communicating, right, to the audience, but also what we want to be known for. Like when we talk about going to your social profile and your tone and what should people think about you when they think about your social profile? So for example, if you want to be known as the roofing company that knows more about safety than anyone else, because safety is what's important to your clients and your audience and your partners and everyone else, then if we go to your social profiles and you're using Twitter as your medium to communicate, your tone of voice should be that of safety. And people should say, hey, if they have a question about the best way to install something or what's practices on whatever for safety and roofing, they should know that they should be able to go to your profiles and find that information. Whether it's all your content or curated content about that subject matter, they should know that I should be able to go to that site and find all kinds of information around that topic and that tone. Like relationship marketing. We talk all about things, building relationships. If you go to Now Marketing Group's kind of Twitter, it's going to be all things thinking about relationships and business and marketing. That's what that whole stream is about.
Yeah, no, I think that's key. So breaking the tone down is that's almost, it's kind of your brand perception that you want that to be coming through, and that comes through in your social media, the profile image, but also as well in the types of responses, the way you talk on social media.
Yeah. So that also comes back to thinking ahead of time, what kinds of content would I be comfortable curating? Because you cannot create enough. I mean, you could, but you'd have a whole team dedicated to just creating content and doing nothing else. Think of other things that you could curate, like what other kinds of content would you feel comfortable sharing on your social media channels? If you have that ahead of time, it's going to save you so much time in the long run. And not just the content that you like, but the content that your personas like as well. And not just what you're going to be sharing, but also the things maybe from your competitors that are kind of aligned in the same kind of space as you. Be aware of what they're doing on their social channels so you can monitor that as well.
Yep. And I think don't overlook what Jessica just said there about the importance of having other people's content. Do you want to, maybe you want to give a little bit on the 10-4-1 again, just
sure.
Because of the value of that. But I would just say, you need other people's content and you need to determine what's going to be helpful within that. If you're a local business, you're the rubber company serving a region, kind of thing, and a roofing company, maybe it's some local regional information that you're mixing in then, that can be different from somebody that's national, but I'll let you go into that other people's content just a touch there to help people understand that.
Yeah, and I'm going to share the link in here. Okay, so the 10-4-1 rule is it's a method of sharing and releasing content that will get you the most reach, because just think about it like newsletters. If you're going to subscribe to something on entrepreneurship or something, or being great at business, you're probably getting that information from a multitude of different sources and getting that streamed in. The goal is to be that one source of good information on your social profile. And by using this formula, you'll get more engagement, more consistent repeat views and visits back to your social channels. So the 10 out of the 10-4-1 is curated content. So you're sharing other things related to that topic from other people on your social profiles. The 4 is your own content. So blog articles, videos, things like that. And then the 1 is your soft call to action or the lead in. So it could be, hey, download our guide on 19 things successful entrepreneurs do on a daily basis. And that could be your 1. That's your ask for them to download and provide a name and email address. So if you think of posting on 30 posts, let's say, basis, then 20, 8 and 2 would be how you break it up. But 10-4-1 is an easy way of writing out and planning out your content, which is also something that you have to do in creating a social media plan. Decide how you're going to plan out and deliver your content then on each channel, how often you're going to post and share, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Okay. The next thing is knowing your activators. So we like to call these activators, which could be people that are current your clients, maybe. It could be people in the community, like you mentioned, that you want to stay in touch with. It could be influencers. It could be people that just really are excited about your brand. It could be your mom. It could be anyone that's really supportive of your brand. But who could be your activators? The people that can go in and are going to support your content and share it. So part of this game plan, like who can be your activators to really get engaged with your content? Because then you can tag them in more content. You can follow their social media profiles and engage with them. But you want to make sure that your content's attractive to them as well.
Yes, make sure it's attractive to them. I think that's where the review comes in then. I mean, because you're probably going to get some feedback on that, right?
Yes. Yeah. Above and beyond just engagement, it would be great if you had some people that you could reach out to specifically and say, hey, what did you think about last week's content or this past month or what we're doing? Did you like that? Do you think it looked good when we put it out? Could we have did some things differently? Like, what do you really think about it? And get their honest feedback.
Yep.
We talked about this before, and then this could be part of your plan for your reviewing, knowing how you're going to measure success. If it is, asking questions to some of your activators or a peer group that you trust, you could potentially put in your plan that you want to create a Facebook group around kind of your VIPs, like we've talked about before, and say, hey, I'm going to use this group really to be my idea generator or my feedback group that can really tell me whether or not they like what we're doing.
Yep.
And make that a Facebook group just for that.
Yeah. So I think that's just helpful stuff. But I mean, I just keep coming back to that. I think one big piece people often overlook is other people's content and even some of the value of that. I always use the example of a real estate agent, local insurance agent. I mean, you're not going to sell somebody a policy or a home every day. So you got to be bringing some value in some other ways. And, you're probably tied to a community. So what can you do to bring value to that local community that you serve?
Exactly. And sometimes it's kind of funny how that works. If you share content and maybe it does better on your page than what I was doing on theirs, then they're like, really taking notice to that too. We've had that happen actually with a real estate company, and we were sharing a community event. Everybody said they've seen it on their page. And, that was a goodwill kind of thing within the community, one. And two, it was a great way to just let their stream and community members know about an event that's happening and that community wants to keep going back to them for good content.
Yep.
Staying in the know. So knowing also not only your posting schedule, but who's going to be your engagers / monitors of what you're putting out. You have to know who's going to be answering those tough questions or those comments when they come in. Who's
Exactly.
going to be responsible.
That means somebody has to be listening and have notifications on and be ready to respond.
I was sitting in a meeting last week and we were talking about social media and we were asking this question and we were like, so when you get a message in, like on Saturdays, when this contest ends, what do you want to do with it? And they're like, wait, it's not 9 to 5. Like there's Saturday. Yeah, we're ending it on a Saturday. And, I'm like, yes. Messages a lot of times come in more on the weekends and then the evenings when people are free. So you have to have someone assigned and monitoring those notifications when it comes in.
You got to have somebody ready to roll with it. And it doesn't mean that they have to be sitting in a office in a computer. I mean, we've got all kinds of devices now that you can do that on the go. I mean, I've, it's funny how it's once you begin doing that, it can be seamless for you. I can be in the midst of a conversation with 5 people in a restaurant, get a notification come in, reply to it, and never miss a beat in the conversation. And no one knew that I just took care of a piece of business, at Saturday night at 7 p.m. in the dinner.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really, this is a huge piece that's missed a lot of times in the planning phase is this piece. I'll give you another example. This weekend was tax-free in Ohio. Do you guys do that in Indiana? Tax-free weekend or back to school?
No.
Okay, so it was tax-free weekend where we can go school supply shopping, clothes shopping, all that in Ohio, which I was super excited about. And I went to local store Myers here and was getting all the kids' school supplies. Well, as I was checking it out in the self-checkout, my tax kept going up and up and up. And I'm like, wait a minute here. Like, this is all stuff on the list. So the people at the checkout couldn't help me. So I went to Facebook and I messaged Myers there, and it took them literally 2.5 days to get back to me because it was, on a Saturday, and they didn't answer and respond for 2.5 days later. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is a national brand, and on the flip side, some of the local people that do have it figured out, was interested in joining this yoga studio, messaged them, and they replied right back, and we were able to take care of business right then and there. And it leaves a better taste in clients' mouths and your community if you respond back quickly versus making them wait. Because in that meantime, I'm telling other people about this situation. I'm like, well, don't go there if you want the tax-free, because it doesn't work.
Right.
And they could have responded and resolved it
Yeah.
ahead of time.
And maybe just to add to that, we've done things where we kind of rotate some on-call kind of pieces, so somebody knows they're responsible, but it doesn't mean that that's the same person all the time. I mean, that type of thing. So we think about within your team, should there be some, some rotation of that? Now, again, they have to understand what to do, be confident in the voice and you be confident in them. But, that's part of the training process.
Exactly. And it doesn't take a lot. Like you said, a lot of times I will monitor a lot of the team's content on their pages for them on the weekends, just because it's just, it's not very difficult. And it's just a matter of getting the notifications on and responding back and checking it. But it's definitely something that needs to be done.
Yeah.
So we talked about monitoring that and what kinds of messages go to who and for what. So let's say there's a tech question. You need to know who's going to be that chain of command, especially if you're managing this on behalf of someone else. And maybe you're not directly in the company. You need to know who the chain of command is and who gives appropriate approvals for who and for what. And then also the legalities of different things that are in your industry, especially if you're in healthcare, insurance, real estate. There's tons of regulations. You need to make sure that you know those sources and as they change, because they do update over time.
Okay. And how about having within your policy some kind of go-tos on how to respond to those hecklers or the ones that are kind of giving you trouble or something that comes up that's a little bit on the danger spot where it's not going to feel good. Yeah.
How to respond to the hug your haters, but how to respond to the negative feedback. Yes. I'm going to put that in there. That's a good one. You do need to have a policy for that.
Place. Kind of think through that ahead of time. How should they, and you can't anticipate every specific possibility, but a displeased customer. Okay, so you take that in general and you could say, okay, what should be your first effort there? I mean, to try to help them feel understood, to try to is to acknowledge it, but to try to take it offline. Can we contact you? Those types of things.
Yeah, I know when we talked about this before, it was kind of the 3 strikes you're out kind of thing. Try to respond publicly, acknowledge publicly, take it offline, and then in a private forum or over the phone or whatever, try to understand and what happened and respond. But if it's a constant, battle with that, how many chances are you going to give the person before you stop that conversation? Or block them or whatever you're going to do. Yeah. So knowing the legalities, knowing what you're going to do in negative situations, also in a crisis kind of within your own organization. So let's say, God forbid, there was a fire or something at your office or something tragic happened. What is your policy for handling that? You need to make sure that we recently just did a communications plan for a hospital here in a hospital client, healthcare, I should say, that have an Ebola plan that we just did specifically for Ebola in case it would ever come to this region. Okay. What needs to happen? And so it's specific for that crisis. So depending on how detailed you want to get in there, you may have specific plans for that kind of communications plan. So it could be like for them, in their case, we said, stop all scheduled content, turn on these monitored keywords automatically if that happens. And then we're going to flip on, we have kind of a dark site that's going to serve as all communication channels for updates on things that are going to happen. So it was a complete plan in place just in case something of this nature would come up. So whatever that crisis could be, what is your crisis plan?
Yep. Excellent.
The next thing is your employee social media kind of rules and regulations, and knowing how you're going to treat your team members in regard to what the rules are with social media. So if they are not allowed to be sharing content related to X, or if they are not allowed to have some things publicly on their own personal profile, so it keeps a good, healthy looking brand in place, let that be known. If you don't want them to be able to publish, the keg stands or whatever it is, and it's not going to speak well on behalf of the brand, you need to put that into a policy and make sure it's well known and signed off by the team members ahead of time.
Yes. That's a good one.
Okay, the next thing is, what will be your superpowers, is what we call it here, but your social media accelerators. So what are going to be the things that you can do and implement to kick it up a notch? Let's just use the example of this. So Now Marketing Group, let's just say we're using Magnet Marketers, and we're going to use video content to really kick up our social profiles a notch. And we're going to release a video every week, and that is going to be one of our superpowers. The next one is going to be a social media ad budget related to X. We're going to allocate this much money for our social media strategy. So what are going to be those extra little accelerators or superpowers that you can have in place to make sure that your content is kicked up a notch?
I like that. So that could be, some other type of tool. I think video right now is an accelerator that way. It's something to consider. It can work that way. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. It could be just images that you're going to share. We had one that was a team member spotlight each week. And so that was kind of one of their accelerators to get the team involved. And it was really nicely designed, kind of featured of the team members. Another one was like before and afters, recent successes. There was one that we've done and we're getting ready to kind of introduce again, that was 3 truths and a lie about team members, and you had to guess kind of which one it was and have some fun with it. Could be
nice.
Social media contests, things like that. So accelerators, kicking it up a notch.
I like that.
The next thing is the competition. So knowing who your competition is. We mentioned, monitoring content before by your competition, but you also want to know who your direct competition is. One, so you can monitor it, but 2, you can compare yourself against them in growth and kind of know what they're doing, but know what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are, so you can kind of niche yourself in with your strengths to really excel. I'll put that in here.
Yes. No, I think that's a critical point, and monitoring those, just paying attention to what they're doing, just doing some listening there, and that's just a part of social, is being aware of what's happening around you, and in your community. I mean, you want to know what's happening in the online community. It's no different. So that's a part of your industry. You pay attention.
Yep. Great. Okay, so the next thing is knowing what tools you're going to use to roll out your social media. So what kinds of tools are you going to need? Do you need one specifically for monitoring and then scheduling, measuring yourself against the competition? But know what kinds of tools that you're going to need so you can streamline and compare which tool is better than the other for your unique business, and know what tools that you're going to need to have in with your plan.
Now's the time while I'm talking where you should go and look up the tools one that we did, our Magnet Marketing, and drop that in there, because we talked about some good tools. And again, it's why do you want a tool? It's because you don't want to be flipping between 4 or 5 different systems and trying to monitor that. You want to try to narrow that down, help yourself out, and going through having one, and particularly you want to think through that, because if you can have one that is desktop and a app, so you can have it on a mobile device as well, that will cover multiple your social media accounts. So if it covers Facebook, Twitter, maybe Instagram, those things for you, then that's going to be a value added time saver kind of thing for your team.
Yeah, because especially when it relates to the brand itself, like we have for Canva for Work, where we create kind of a branded template for like images and things that are going to be shared on social profiles. So we make sure that if there's an image being shared, it's kind of branded to the company. Or maybe it's a quote and it's in an image form, for example, but make sure that, you have kind of that tool in place to allow for that kind of thing. And also, you purchase, photos that are going to be used on social media. You can't just grab one off Google. That's not legal. So you have kind of some kind of photo or stock photo gallery that you can purchase images from. Same thing with music for videos, that kind of thing. So that's kind of an extension of those tools, but definitely there's some good tools out there that were mentioned in that blab that you and Liz talked about as well. But yeah, social media tools. And then, how to measure your ROI. We talked about, knowing your goals, but then what are you going to be measuring for ROI? So I'm going to put that in here.
Yep.
Let me find one other link here to that social media apps. I want to put that in as well. And it sounds like a lot here, but really after you start planning it out, it's a good way of kind of just hashing it all out at the beginning, so and you can always change it, as you get going. But
yep. And I like what you talk about there, just with some monthly kind of check-ins, reviews, kind of thing. So it's a measurement. Look back, look ahead, make some tweaks, make sure everybody knows that. What are you going to do, and outline those pieces. Because that's the key, is continuous improvement, continuous evolving. And I mean, what was it? 14 days ago, Instagram stories didn't exist, and so now it's consideration. A year ago, Facebook Live didn't exist for every small business, and it does now. So it's a consideration to pay attention to. That's why it's just important to review, and you just can't. You can't go with autopilot, and nobody's running a successful business that is completely autopilot. It's always adapting, learning, adjusting, tweaking.
Exactly. Yes. So true. The last thing that I have here on this list, then we can talk about some specifics in here, is that know what kind of qualities that you're going to look for then if you're hiring out. Remember, at the very beginning of this game plan, it talks about, knowing what your responsibilities are going to be and what kinds of responsibilities that you're going to maybe assign to someone else within your team or within an agency or whatever you're doing to make sure that your plan's fully supported. But what kinds of qualities are you going to look for then if you're hiring someone to fulfill that role, for your social media manager? Knowing what specifically you're looking for and already have that ironed out. So if it comes to you needing to hire someone, you already got it there.
Yep. And it's just a growing skill today. And I think that when I talk with businesses, I always say, because everyone, there's a mentality in business that it can be totally learned, and I'm not sure I agree with that, because you can't just follow a list and get it. That you're just so when you look for that person, I mean, I think that they have to have somewhere what I call being a digital native. Okay, so that has to flow with them. They have to be a person that intuitively can download an app and figure it out without written instructions there for them, and would naturally engage with social media. It's a part of their routine, personality, style naturally. It's not something that, I've got this assigned to me, so now I have to do it. It's not going to be natural that way.
Yeah. And it's not just someone that is already on social. I agree with you that part. Like if they like social, I mean, they have to already like it and believe in it and be doing it. But that's not the only qualification either. I'm 100% in agreement with you that they have to be some kind of just be able to get it and understand it, because they change all the time. And if you have to provide written instruction, there's going to be no way for someone to keep up if they can't just cognitively look at something and say, okay, I'm assuming it's here, 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 and just be willing to dive in and kind of figure it out, kind of thing. Yeah, because I've seen the best people, I mean, really good people that they could write social media content. They could write a post, let me just say, but it doesn't click to what kinds of content works, and it just is never quite there. It's never quite gets there. So there's a definite difference between individuals that are kind of made for doing it. And you have to kind of be able to be a best friend with your computer or phone or whatever, and not look at it like work, because it's a lot.
Be part of it. Yeah. No, and these things can make you successful. Everything that we've outlined here and the links, I mean, Jessica's given you some tremendous links here that can help you. How to set up a social media communications plan. I think you got to come back to the basics and say, outline your goals. I mean, it's always good. What's your foundation? Why are we doing this? Then you got to get into some of those nitty gritties. And you don't want to just say in frequency that, hey, we want to post, start out small. So we want to post 3 times a week, because hopefully you're getting the coaching, at least from us, that you got to be relevant, and relevant is not 3 times a week. It's just not going to happen, because of the volume that's out there. So you find some resourcing. I was thrilled to be a part of Jessica's event, Social Media Week Lyman in June there, and that those kind of things where you can come pick up some tips, and then you got to go back and do some of the work. You got to map some of these pieces out. Just giving you a great list here of links to access and follow through on. But it's a plan. It's a plan that takes some action, takes some effort, but like you said, it's doable. It's manageable.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of it's come from things that we've talked about here. It's the follow-up to a lot of the videos that are supportive with the things that we're talking about and outlining here. It's a great way of kind of bringing some of our videos together and tying it into one, so you can get right there. Now, I just posted a link here on the right-hand side that is the social media game plan link. So again, I'll put a video with this so you can fill it out and print it off for yourself, but it really goes through, what is our why, kind of who are we attracting, what are we trying to obtain, how are we going to walk people through the sales funnel, who are our recruits, how we're planning on recruiting them. Is it going through and filling out the email form? Is it what is our wins, so to speak? Your content and mission statement, kind of what do you want to be known for, your specific goals, your superpowers, the all-star plan lineup, your strengths, your perceived opportunities for improvement, and the same thing about your competitors. So a cheat sheet. So then if you do want to go back, I mean, things happen so fast, you want to go back and say, what was our game, what is our game plan? And we need to go back to our core and really stick to this and be strategic about what we're putting out versus just sharing stuff to share it. You can easily have this visual guide readily available for you.
Yeah. Yep.
So Mike, you want to talk about next week? And I'm going to in our Facebook group, and I'll plug the link in here.
Yeah, no, I've alluded to it even here. And that is, one of the most recent developments was Instagram stories. So Instagram came out, last week, I guess it was on this day, wasn't it? It was Tuesday.
Yeah.
Last week that we're almost doing this live, and it comes out, and Jessica's like, did you try it yet? And I'm like, no, I didn't, because we're talking here. I haven't had time to download it. But Instagram stories, it's kind of their, Snapchat-esque feature. But what it is an opportunity for businesses. You have stories now at the top, the little circles there, and you can put in little 10-second snippets and keep adding to those, video and imagery. You can do some edits on those and play with it a little bit to create a continuous story that's available for 24 hours from the time that post was put up, the last post. And so it's just something to be aware of then, the opportunities, the differences, what that means for a business, because I think it's just good to talk about Instagram because this summer has been powerful for them. The business profiles coming out and now stories. These are two huge key elements. And so I'm looking forward to diving into that one next week and why it's important for businesses to be aware of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Lots changed with Instagram as with a lot of the social channels, but really, I mean, I think people are really trying to figure this out. So I think, sharing what it is and how you can get involved with it is a great way of kind of introducing next week. Yeah. Draft mode coming on Instagram. There's all kinds of nutty stuff. Instagram is just completely rebranded themselves this year. So it's a different game, but they're all going after this, this target audience groups, and everybody's kind of pulling for our attention. So it's kind of smart of them to keep changing. It's tough at first, but then we learn to appreciate it.
Yep. So we're putting the link in here. People subscribe to it. Already. And, I'd like to give them some homework, and that is to make sure they download the app and get the latest updates so they have stories and just play with it a little bit before coming, just so that when we're talking there, it's going to be real sharp and relevant for you. We'll cover it again and go over the details, but I think it'd be good just to have a little experience. That way, when we talk about business uses and stuff, you're sharp with it.
Exactly. Yep. I agree. So good homework. Another, if you would be so kind, we did set up a Facebook group specifically for all of us here in our community. That's been amazing to have this very repeat people coming back each week. So to keep everyone in the know on things that we're going to be talking about in the future, and also getting some ideas from you. What do you want to know more about? What should we dive in deeper and cover, or something maybe we haven't covered yet? We'd love to hear from you and have you as part of our community so we can build relationships and support you and your brand. So join us over on Facebook, facebook.com/Magnet Marketers. We'd love to learn more about your business as well. So thank you, Mike, for your time today. And thank all of you for joining us this week on Magnet Marketers, where our goal is to help you become a magnet versus a bullhorn with your marketing. We hope to see you back next week, Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talking about Instagram stories. Thanks, Mike.
Excellent. You bet. Take care.
See ya.